Thank you all for all of your patience and all these technical difficulties. My name is Anna. I am an admissions counselor for the University of Oklahoma. I will be the specific admissions counselor that will be working with you while you are looking at OU, trying to get familiar with it, as well as when you are applying, helping you with the application if you have questions. And then also, once you've been accepted, then I'll also be your point person when it comes to those post-admission steps that you may need help with. I'm also somebody who nominates you for certain scholarships or for certain opportunities. So definitely keep a relationship with me. I'm here as a resource to you. I'm cheering you on, hoping to like get you through the application process and just familiar with OU in general. Because at the end of the day, I do want you to be at a school where you feel you can thrive. Um, so let's get started. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so at OU, we have roughly around 22,000 undergraduate students. Now, it does seem like a lot of students, which I mean, it is. It's a big campus. If you haven't taken the opportunity to visit yet, definitely do so. It's a beautiful campus. I take every opportunity I can to visit campus because, again, it's just like it's. I think it has a lot to offer. Now you do have to remember that just because like we are a pretty big campus, we're actually not the biggest campus. So there are campuses that are a lot bigger than ours too, especially now that we're in the SEC conference. Now you'll see we're kind of on the smaller side. And so that I feel like we definitely get kind of like the best of both worlds in this situation. We do give you a bigger community environment, but also not that too big, right? The thing I love about OU is that although it's a huge campus, I would say that there's so many opportunities for you to find a community within campus. So like, just because it's so big doesn't mean that you're not going to fit in. Because I know some students are just a little hesitant because of how big it is. But just kind of keep that in mind because it's so big, there are so many opportunities, so many chances for you to have a smaller community within the bigger community. And then if we can move on to the next slide. Because we are the largest public institution in Oklahoma. We are tier one research school. Because we have students that are interested from all over, we have you'll see on this like map, these are like in the darker areas, you'll see where most of our students are coming from. And if we go to the next slide, um, we have such a big range of students that are coming from all over. We actually have admissions counselors that are placed in our more like hotspot areas, right? So you'll see that we have some in California, we have some in Texas, we have some, you'll see kind of like all over. Our main areas are going to be Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Colorado, California, all of those areas. We're getting a lot of students from those areas, so we have admissions counselors that are placed in those areas as well for us to be able to better help those students that are coming in. And then if we can go to the next slide. So we are innovators. So what that means is if you go to the next slide, we really like to put in a lot of our effort in making sure our students are set up for success. So we are ranked in the top 7.9 percentile for research expenditures. So a lot of our students, most of our students have a lot of opportunity to do hands-on. They'll get hands-on experience. So like, the weather is pretty bad right now. So we have students that are able to kind of monitor. We have like a place. I'm forgetting the exact name for it. I'm so sorry. Like I'm blanking on the name because I was a little frazzled by this whole presentation thing. But the meteorologist center, right? So like a weather center. That's what I was thinking. The weather center. So we have like a weather center where students can go and shadow meteorologists and like and get more hands-on experience. See what this is, what it looks like on the back end. Because like bless our meteorologists, they keep us updated and let us know like when are these storms are coming in. And so like our students are able to be there with them and they're able to get hands-on experience with these professionals to be able to better be set up for success. And so if we go to the next slide. And so that's where some of our technology comes in. So like the Tom Love Innovation Hub on our campus offers tools and resources and world-class professionals to help our entrepreneurs transform ideas into reality. So in this specific place, the Tom Love Innovation Hub, we have resources for students to utilize while they're on campus. Now we have like a 3D printer, we have laser printers, I know in this specific hub, there were a couple of students who helped a child. And this is open to anybody. Like this innovation hub is open to anyone in Norman. A child came in and they were wanting to make a costume, but they needed a prosthetic hand. So the students there were able to make a prosthetic hand for this specific student because they didn't they needed that specific piece for their costume, and the student was able to again just have a prosthetic hand made for them by these students. So like we have a lot of resources that are offered to our students, and professionals that are able to help these students kind of transform their ideas into reality. If we can go to the next slide, please. And then we also like to think ourselves as champions. If we move on. So that means we have like over 170 plus undergraduate degrees to offer on our campus. So if you don't know what you want to study, that's absolutely okay. You'll see that there's like a little website on the bottom. It says ou.mymajors.com. You can always visit that. It's an assessment that you'll take to be able to it's an assessment you'll put in like all of your interests, and it's going to generate a couple of degrees that may fit your interests. The great thing when I say about plus is that I learned this once I graduated and actually started this position, is that if you out of all these degrees, if they're, if you look at all these degrees and you decide that like, this isn't, there's not a specific degree that fits your interest, but like there are a couple of degrees that are like pulling your interest. You can actually, through the Arts and Science Center, create and cater a degree to yourself. So it's called essentially it's going to be like an exploratory degree. It's not going to have the specific name of the degree that you studied on there, but like some students who like are maybe wanting to go to med school, they will create a degree that's kind of catered around, maybe it's like public speaking and like biology or something like that. So they kind of create their own degree at the university for themselves that best fits their interests. Again, there are a lot of degrees to choose from, and so there are a lot of options. And another great thing about OU is that like even if you come when you're applying and you still don't know what degree you want, you can always apply undecided. So you don't have to have a major decided when you're applying, nor whenever you start as a freshman. So like freshman year you come in and you're like, I still don't know what I want to study, you can still explore your options, and then hopefully by sophomore year you decided like what you want your major to be. But again, it's not a requirement for you to have a major decided when you're applying or whenever you are a freshman in your freshman year. And then if we go to the next slide, I don't know if you guys can hear all the thunder, but it's starting to get pretty bad over here. And so you'll see like some of our degrees are like the top in the nation. You'll see our aviation is number one. You'll see our meteorology program is number one. So again, it's because of the technology that we have to offer our students on our campus that we are able to be ranked so high. So like our aviation program, I know they're about to get 25 new airplanes. So like you're getting hands-on experience in the specific degree that you are studying. So like if you're in the aviation program, you as a freshman, you can start. Sorry, I'm like watching the weather at this window. You can start flying your first year. So like that's why it's also very competitive. That's also why it's ranked number one, because like as an incoming freshman, your freshman year in the program, you get to have those flight hours. And again, like you'll see in that slide where it said meteorology program, like we have specific technology that we are allowing our students to be able to use, so they have a better idea of what it's going to be like. And they're just able to get that experience that you might not be able to get if you're just kind of studying in a classroom. And if we want to go to the next one. And we have 43 national titles. So you'll see, I'm sure you know, we're in the SEC now, or if you don't, we're kind of known for our football, we're known for our gymnastics, we're known for our softball. So we do have a lot of our athletes do thrive on our campus as well. Our teams are do well. We don't want to necessarily always focus on oh, that was loud. We don't always want to focus just on our sports teams because we have a lot more to offer. But like the great thing is if you are into sports, it students are able to go to any of our games with just their student ID. It's free to our students, excluding like football, men's basketball, and then I think it's women's softball. So like for those three games, you do have to buy tickets, but for any of the other games that you might want to attend on campus, you can actually visit those games or attend those games for free. Like you'll just use your student ID card and buy a ticket for yourself there, or the ticket will be paid for through so it's free to our students. And if we go to our next slide. And then we also like to think of ourselves as a family. And if we move on, a lot of our students, if I could see you guys and I could hear you, I would ask you what you think our class sizes look like. Most of our students, or most students, are going to say that their our class sizes look like over 100 plus students, which isn't necessarily wrong. But typically, our class sizes are actually going to be a 17-to-1 ratio, meaning our class sizes are typically going to be around like 32 students. The classes that where we are having over 100 students, those are actually going to be like your ology classes. So those are going to be like biology, physiology, psychology, and then I forgot the other allergy I was thinking about. But those classes, they're going to be filled with a lot more students, but you have to remember that more than likely those classes are also going to come with a lab. So although you are in a big setting with all these students, one, it's great because you make a lot of friends. I'm not going to lie, everyone is just kind of like, let's make study groups, let's get together. And then two, you also get a lab with that class. So then you are in a smaller setting with either a teacher assistant or a professor where you're getting a little bit more one-on-one time. And that's again where you're in a class with like 32 students compared to like a class with 100 students. And then also if you're in the honors college, your classes also are going to be a bit smaller. They're going to be roughly around 22 students in the class. Okay, hoping my power doesn't go out, but if we want to go to the next slide. And again, this is kind of what I was talking about. Our average class size is 32 students, and only 4% of our classes are going to have more than 100 students. And then if we want to go to the next slide. And then we have over 500 plus student organizations on our campus. I actually heard that it's over 700 plus now. So we do have a lot to offer on our campus for our students to get involved in. And that's what I want to like kind of was saying whenever I was saying that there's so many communities within the big community. And this can be from anything. Our organizations can be from like student government life, major specific groups, religious specific groups, ethnicity specific groups, Greek life. We have like a lettuce club on campus. I always like plug this one or say this one because I think it's the craziest one I've heard about, where the students will grow lettuce, and after they grow it, they'll meet once a year, and then whoever can eat the most lettuce becomes the president. And then the next year they start that all over again, and so they meet once a year after they've grown all the lettuce and just have like a lettuce eating competition to see who can be president. So again, like if you can't find a space for yourself on campus, you'll create a space for yourself on campus, and that is one of the great things about OU that I really appreciated and I liked. And then if we go to the next slide. We do have, I'm gonna actually go ahead and skip this slide as well. This wasn't supposed to be on here, but we do have a diverse campus. And so we are located in Norman. If you guys are in Tulsa, it's gonna be about 2 hours from you. Norman is very, I would say it's a very homey town. It's a very, I would say it's like a neighborhood town. It's kind of like when you see, like on the TV, when everyone just kind of gets along, everyone is like friendly. I would definitely say that's what Norman gives. It's a small town, but it's definitely becoming more populated and just like thriving a bit more. Kind of like Tulsa. I feel like Tulsa is starting to get a lot more, just like it within the Tulsa, like with our outlet mall that just went live. So like Norman's kind of like that in a way too. Like they have like art festivals, chocolate festivals. They have so much that actually goes on and I cannot remember. I'm so sorry, but like I'm like watching the weather and that's what distracted me. But there is a lot to do within Norman itself. If you get tired of Norman, if you go to the next slide, you can always visit Oklahoma City, which is only about 20-30 minutes from Norman. So, like, yes, Norman gives you that small hometown vibe. But if you ever get tired of that and you want like more of a city experience, you can always go to Oklahoma City, which it's very lively too. Like, a lot of people like to go to Bricktown, just kind of like walk downtown, or like they go to Scissortail Park, which that's where you'll see that Ferris wheel at. And so again, there's a lot to do with around Norman, and in Norman as well. And then if you get tired of the city, if you go to the next side, um, oh, maybe I will get to it in a second. We are global citizens. So we have international students from over 136 countries study at OU. So that's the great thing about OU. Like even though like it's a small homey town, there are people that are coming from all over. Like I said, within the states as well as different countries. A lot of my close friends now are actually students that were international students and now live here and like I love hearing from their like I love hearing about their life and their experiences and like where they've come because I think it teaches me a lot about like what I'm not getting to learn while I'm just like in the States. And then also it makes me feel like I'm getting an immersive experience as well. If you go to the next slide, this is what I was going to say. If you get tired of Oklahoma, you can always go study abroad. We have a study abroad office at OU. They are incredible. They help you with getting your visa, finding like scholarships, finding ways to pay to go abroad. So you can go abroad in over 80 countries, over 200 cities. We have two other main campuses outside of uh, the states, which is going to be one in Pueblo, Mexico, and one in Arezzo, Italy. So those are OU campuses in Mexico and Italy that you can go and study on. You'll have OU professors, you'll be with OU students, you'll get to be immersed in the community, in the country, explore the country itself. If you don't want to go to Mexico or Italy, you can always go to a different country if you choose to, or a different city. Some people will go to like Scotland, some people will go to Japan. They'll kind of go like all over depending on even whether like their professor maybe invites them. I had a professor who invited me to go to like Scotland, and I wish I took the opportunity. I didn't think it was affordable at the time. And then later I learned that you can use your financial aid to study abroad, and sometimes it's actually cheaper to study abroad because of the currency differences. And so like I would definitely utilize study abroad office if that's something you're interested in. If you're interested in studying abroad, you can't study abroad your freshman year, but you can start studying abroad your you can start studying abroad like your sophomore year. So you can either study abroad for a semester, a summer, or a full year. It all kind of depends on like where you want to go and also like how long you want to go for. And again, the study abroad office is a great resource for students who do want to study abroad because they really do help you with making it happen. And then if we go to the next slide. Um, we like to think of ourselves as a great investment, and that's for like any college, right? So over now it's over 91% of our students have received a scholarship from the Office of Admissions and Recruitment. So freshmen that apply, they freshmen that apply by December 15th. I want you to remember this deadline. December 15th, as long as you apply December 15th, you're automatically considered for the scholarships that are either major specific, college specific. College meaning like College of Business, College of Engineering. Some specific colleges, some specific majors will give you scholarships. Sometimes our office, again, like the Office of Admissions and Recruitment, will give you scholarships. And there's some other scholarships that you can be considered for, community and leadership scholarships that you can be considered for as long as you apply by December 15th. You're automatically considered for those scholarships. So it's not a separate application for the scholarships. Your application is what we're looking at for scholarships as well. So just make sure you apply by December 15th. Our first deadline had just passed, which was November 1st. That was the early decision one, but I mean, again, just because it's passed doesn't mean like you shouldn't try to still aim to apply early. I would definitely try to apply early, because the earlier you apply, the more resources or the more opportunities you have to receive financial aid. Not financial aid, but like scholarships. Can we go to the next slide, please? So kind of getting into what that direct cost will look like. So the direct cost of attendance is actually for Oklahoma residents. It's actually going to be, I think I sent you an older slide on accident, and that's why I was struggling a little bit, because the newer slide would have said the total cost is actually $32,000 roughly for Oklahoma residents. And that's a really big cost to look at, and like it can be a really scary cost to look at. So I do want to break that down for you. One, I want you to know that books are not books and supplies and miscellaneous fees being like transportation, gas, rent, like all those other things are not going to be directly charged to your bursar. Your bursar is where the Student Financial Center is keeping track of your bill. So if you hear me say that word, that's what the bursar means. So you're not being charged those expenses directly to your bursar, so you're not directly like paying that. And then tuition fees. So if you have Oklahoma Promise, you do have your tuition paid for up to 5 years with Oklahoma Promise. And then for students that are coming in as incoming freshmen, that are Oklahoma Promise students, we have what we call Crimson Commitment, which is a commitment to our Oklahoma Promise students. It is a scholarship that so Crimson Commitment helps pay for. It's a gap filling scholarship, so it helps cover the average cost of fees. Now, I want to emphasize gap filling and then average cost of fees. Crimson Commitment, if you have Oklahoma Promise and Crimson Commitment, essentially you can have both your tuition and fees covered. But Crimson Commitment is going to cover up to the cost of $9,063, but it's going to look at like everything you're already receiving, like with what you're receiving from FAFSA, like the Pilgrim, what you're receiving from outside scholarships, what you're receiving from like institution scholarships. They're going to look at all of that, and if there's a gap between everything that you're receiving and how much is left in your fees, then Crimson Commitment is going to come in and kind of fill that in. Supplement that, right? So like to help cover the cost of fees. Now, again, I wanted to say it's gap filling. So like some people see the entire amount, some people don't see the entire amount, some people see like a little bit of it, some people may not see it 1 year, they might see it the next year. Like Crimson Commitment, it is for up to 4 years. We have a webinar that we actually that we do every month. I think we do it twice a month actually, where students can learn more about like Oklahoma Promise and Crimson Commitment and how to pay for OU in general, and actually be able to like hear from a money coach. If cost is something that like you are really worried about, I highly recommend that you attend this webinar, because they're going to break down the entire cost for you. Now housing and food is going to be the next big cost, and so in the newer slide that I had in my other presentation, that cost would have been around $15,000. You have to keep in mind that that is actually going to be like an average cost. Like it's not like that's not our cheapest dorm, and nor is it our most expensive dorm. It's kind of like a medium number that we're giving you on this cost of attendance. So you're only required to live on campus the first year. For students that are coming in as incoming freshmen, you do have to live on campus. And that's not that's not an OU thing. That is a Board of Regents thing. So unfortunately, like, it is a requirement that you have to live on campus, with the exception of like a couple circumstances. But we do have opportunities and ways for students to help have that cost covered. So like, um, we have like one scholarship. It's called Welcome Home Scholarship. It's a one-time scholarship that we can offer students. It's roughly around $5,000. It is for the full year, so it's not going to cover the entire cost of housing and food. But like, we do have that scholarship, and then we have what's called Room and Board, which is a federal work study program. It's based off of financial need. You do have to have a FAFSA file. You also have to have a FAFSA file to be considered for a Welcome Home Scholarship. But the Room and Board program is actually something that I did whenever I was in school, and the Room and Board program helps you pay off the cost of living on campus. So if like you're like, I'm willing to work to help pay off the cost of my dorm and my meal plan, this may be a program, like if you have a financial need, that may be helpful to you. And I can always help answer questions about that, and we can talk more about the cost if you have specific questions as later on. After this, you can connect with me, and also again, I can send you that link to attend the virtual session to go over how to pay for OU. That would be really helpful, and you can invite your parents to come to it as well to hear more about how to pay for OU in general. But it is a really big number to look at, so I can understand like why some students may be hesitant or a bit scared, and that's why I think that it's a really good idea to just attend that webinar to get more information and hear from a money coach as well. And if we want to go to the next slide. So how do you join the OU family? So you can apply to ou.edu as a freshman. So even if you've taken any kind of college course or maybe you're graduating with your associates in by the time you graduate high school, when you are graduating high school with any college classes or an associate's degree, you are still considered an incoming freshman. If you take any college course, like if you take anything up to like 7 credit hours, so if you take more than 7 credit hours after high school, then you are considered a transfer student. So even if you've taken any college courses or have an associate's degree by the time you graduate high school, you're still going to apply as a freshman. Now, if like freshman scholarships like Crimson Commitment are only going to be offered again to freshmen. So like if you are planning on taking any courses outside of high school, if you take anything over than 7 college credit hours, you will be considered a transfer student, and you won't receive like the freshman scholarships. We are a test optional school, so that means you don't have to submit you don't have to submit test scores if that's what you want to do. You can apply test optional, but I do want to remind you that test scores, if you can submit them, and if you do test well, I would submit them because that's where you're going to get your biggest academic scholarships. And if we go to the next slide, I actually might talk about this a little bit more. Let me talk about how we apply. I think we're going to get to it. So there are 3 ways to apply. So you can apply directly through our website. You can apply through the apply.ou.edu website, or you can apply through the Common App or the Coalition App. The Common App and Coalition App are just third party, where you can apply. You can put in all of your information all at once, and then send out your application to multiple schools. Common App and Coalition App are going to keep track of like your letters of recommendation. They're going to keep track of like your transcript and all the other important information that you are probably going to send out to multiple schools at once. And if you go to the next slide, this is where we were going to go over test optional and like what we're looking at whenever we're looking at your application. So we are a holistic review process. So we are looking at a couple of different things. We're looking at academic rigor. We're looking at GPA, test scores, and course rigor. So again, We are test optional, so if you decide you don't want to submit test scores, you do not have to submit test scores. You can apply as test optional. We start awarding scholarships at a 24 ACT and a 1160 SAT with a 3.5 GPA. So if you're not going to really meet that, if you're not going to meet that test score wise, I might suggest to you to just apply test optional, and that being because as long as you apply by December 15th, you can resubmit scores up until April 30th. So just kind of keep that in mind. So like you have until April 30th to submit updated test scores. And so, like, if you're gonna apply test optional, you still have the option to submit test scores if you would choose to do so. If you test again and you get a higher score, and then we also look at your leadership and community involvement. We look at your essay and we look at letters of recommendation. We take up to 3 letters of recommendation, so I would utilize that if you can. And then if we want to move on. Sorry, I know I'm like talking a lot. These are some important dates that we want you to keep in mind. So freshman applications have opened up. We just missed that early action admission deadline, which was November 1st. That's absolutely okay if you weren't able to meet that deadline. The most important deadline I'm going to continuously mention to you is December 15th. That is the final scholarship admission deadline. If you miss that deadline, that you don't get considered for you don't get considered for the scholarships that are offered through our university. And that also goes for like test scores. So if you're submitting test scores and are wanting to get those academic scholarships, you want to apply by December 15th. That is going to be like the deadline you want to hit at. Our application does close February 1st, but come December 16th, you apply and you ask me like, hey, I need help with finding scholarships. I can't really do much, but refer you to outside scholarships if you have not applied by December 15th. So keep that in mind. And then if we wanted to go to the next slide. Okay, and then we're at the presentation. So I hope this was helpful to you. You can always follow us at Go to OU to kind of keep updated with us about what's going on campus. If you're ever on campus, tag us. We want to know your experience. We want to see you on campus. But yeah, that's kind of the presentation.